Right, well, good afternoon, everyone. We'll make a start to the Huddersfield Planning Committee. We'll start with item 1, membership of the subcommittee. And I understand we've got 1 or 2 changes here. I've got them down myself. But do you Councillor? Yes. Koshik, yep.
Yeah, just confirm.
Yeah, covering Paul Davis, Councillor Paul Davis.
Right.
Councillor Marchington.
Paul, yeah, Paul. No.
Yeah.
And Councillor Marchington.
Yeah, Andrew Marchington, substituting for Anthony Smith.
Thank you, Andrew.
And just to confirm, Chair, we've got apologies from Councillor Bamford.
Yes, he did email me, actually. Thank you. Right, item 2, minutes of previous meeting. Somebody prepared to move them? Was here? Councillor Sokol and Councillor Ulla seconded. All in favour, please show. You've got a discrepancy. Would you like to explain it, please?
Well, Councillor Munro was at the last meeting. I just thought I'd note it down, present. She was substituting for someone else, Councillor Munro. Yeah, Councillor Munro was substituting for someone at the last meeting.
Okay, that's noted, thank you.
Yes, I'm not listed as attending. I was sitting next to Councillor Munro, but I am listed as having declared that I've been lobbied.
Okay, that's noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, item 3 then, declarations of interest and lobbying. So we'll start with Councillor Armour.
None, sir.
And if you just carry on, Councillor Bellamy.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out what item number it is. The one at Netherley. Yeah, item 11. I've been lobbied in the past. No action taken.
Councillor McGuinn.
Nothing to declare, Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes, I have to declare for agenda item 8. I'm a trustee for River Home Connections, and they have put in a comment. I haven't decided anything yet.
Sorry, can I introduce what did you say you were?
I'm a trustee for the charity River Home Connections, and they have submitted a comment.
And are you, what are you doing? Are you making a declaration now?
Yes, I think that's the right thing to do, isn't it? Yeah.
What is it? Are you not participating in the meeting? In that item?
No, I am participating.
I think Deborah is just confirming it for purposes of transparency.
Thank you.
Councillor Marchington.
Yeah, no lobbying, Chair, but I'm on item 11. I don't believe it's a prejudicial interest, but a number of members of the congregation of the church where I'm minister in Marsden live adjacent to the site, so I would prefer not to take part in the debate or vote on the item, but I would like to listen to the debate.
Thank you.
That's fine, thank you.
Councillor Ola. Nothing.
Yes, Chair. Application 93564, page 111. I know the applicant and also I know the objector, but no advice being given.
I assume then you're not going to take it, or not going to vote on that one, are you, or are you?
Chair, I don't think there's any reason for him not to vote.
Yes, I am voting. I said I know both of them,
you know
but no advice been given.
Right.
Yeah.
Harpreet, councillor.
Oh, thank you, Chair. We received an email on item 9 when it came last time to committee, and no one of the objectors but no advice was given, so I will still be voting on that item. And then on number 8, we were sent a note from River Home Connections, but I'll still be taking part in the vote. Is that okay?
Yeah, you've no.
No, we were just sent through Richard. I don't know if I need to make a comment on that, but we were sent a note from River Home Connections.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just part of lobbying, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Councillor Sokol.
Yeah, Chair, item 9. As Councillor Server has said, I know the applicant, I know the objector who might be here, but I haven't involved anything on the application. Yeah. Then I got interest to declare on item 12, page 157, 212 Bradford Road. I have been involved with all the parties, with applicant, agent, and the officer, and I've been in touch with via email. So I have to declare my interest, and I would like to leave the room when it comes to the committee. Okay?
Thank you for that.
That's the only last one, not other one.
Oh yes, no. Councillor Kaushik.
Thank you, Chair. Just like as I'm a ward councillor for application number 9, as like Councillor Sauer and Councillor Sokol said, I know both parties.
Just for information.
Yeah, just for it.
Councillor Homewood.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, similar 93564. I declared last time I had an email from an objector about that, and I do know them as well, but yeah, no advice given.
Item 4, admission of the public. Here. So I gave it to Richard. Probably he didn't hear us because I didn't shout it, Deborah.
Okay, just to confirm, Councillor Lyon has no interest yet.
Admission of the public. 5, deputations and petitions.
None received, Chair.
Received. Public question time. Item 6.
None.
None. Item 7, reporting of emergency delegated decisions. Now we've got the reporting here. There will be no decision on this. Who's actually the officer is actually going to present it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As Chair's just said, this item, it is for report only. It details decisions which have been taken by the Strategic Director under the Council's constitutional powers because there was insufficient time to bring to committee due to the Inspector of the Inquiry imposing a deadline. So, members, you will be familiar with the footpath diversion application at Wolfstones. The matter is being determined by way of inquiry. The appellant submitted a unilateral undertaking to set out improvement to the highway verge in the hope that this would make the scheme acceptable or mitigate the impact of the proposed diversion. In consultation with the Chair, this undertaking was rejected as being unacceptable. A second amended unilateral was submitted, and again this required an emergency decision. The decision was made to reject the final draft for the reasons set out fully at pages 69 and 70 of your agenda, which in summary are: point 1, there was no comprehensive design details included. Point 2, the financial sum does not reflect the cost of a Kirklees compliant footway with standard construction. Point 3, legal concerns over the validity of the document And point 4, endorsement of any plan for implementing works is directly at odds with the decision of this committee in January 2020 when proposed verge improvements under section 278 were agreed. So, just to confirm, this item is for members to note the content of the report only. However, if members do have any queries or comments, the Council's legal officer, Deborah Wilkes, is here virtually to respond to any matters there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'm looking around. I think we've discussed this more than enough. We've given it well, I won't say any more myself. I'll leave it at that. So unless anybody's got a burning desire to make comment, no.
It's straightforward,
Right.
Mr. Chair.
Well, we don't need to make a decision on it. Thank you. Item 8, but can I just say, this seems to be the largest one. We seem to have more speakers. There is a possibility, if it does drag on quite a bit, we'll just have a break for 5 minutes as people are coming and going. So we'll just see how it goes. Thank you. Officer, item 8, which is the page 73, and it's the demolition of the Holmfirth Market Hall.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to upload this slide. Thank you, Chair. I'm Stuart Howden, planner, and I'm the case officer for this application. This application seeks planning permission for the demolition of Holmfirth Market Hall and the extension and redevelopment of Huddersfield Road car park, including improvements to the existing vehicular access and new vehicular access off Huddersfield Road, as well as a new pedestrian bridge over the River Holme. The site is at Huddersfield Road Car Park and Holmfirth Market Hall, Holmfirth. The application is brought to Planning Committee due to the number of representations received in relation to this case. So the site comprises two elements with an open 24-bay car park to the north-east of the site there, to the right, and then there's the Holmfirth Market Hall to the south-west with the left. The market building can be accessed from both Huddersfield Road as well as Hollowgate and is partially constructed on a bridge over the River Holme and is split level. The northwest side of Huddersfield Road, where the car park is accessed from, is here. And then there's the pedestrian access to the Market Hall over the bridge to Hollowgate, and it can be accessed from Huddersfield Road as well. The site slopes from northwest to southeast towards the River Holme, which is towards the south of the site there. The site is within Holmfirth Conservation Area, and there are listed buildings to the south of the site on Hollowgate here. So I'm going to show a few photos of the site for context. These photos within this slide are from the north, well, hopefully they load, yeah, these are from the north side of the site, adjacent to Huddersfield Road. And here you can see the car park and the market building in the background, with the land sloping towards the River Holme there. And on the left photo, you can see the commercial properties adjacent to the site there. The four photos here are taken from Hollowgate, which is to the south of the site and adjacent to the River Holme. The top left photo displays the view of the car park from Hollygate, as well as the slight bit of the market building and the bridge. The bottom right photo and the bottom left photo and the top right photo, you can see the side of the market hall there. And on this top right photo, you can see this modern extension, or relatively modern extension to the market building. And then on the bottom right photo, you get to see that extension's front elevation, and the bridge is over on the River Home. And these are taken at the southern end of the car park. So at the top left photo, you can see Huddersfield and the gradient, Huddersfield Road and the gradient there, and a slight elevation of the Home Firth Market. And here on the bottom right, you can see the River Home and the bridge over it to the Market Hall. So the next slide displays the proposed layout of the development. To the north of the site, the proposal would result with an extended car park comprising 26 spaces, including 2 disabled spaces and 3 electric vehicle spaces. The car park is proposed to operate on a one-way system with 2 accesses off Huddersfield Road, one being new here, which would be the egress, so that's the one to the west, and the one at the east is existing but is proposed to be improved. The new widened bridge is proposed across Hollygate, so this is proposed to be 3 metres wider than the existing bridge, and this is proposed to form part of the pedestrian access between Hollygate to the south and Huddersfield Road to the north. And you can see 3 cycle stands are also proposed on that bridge. So this is a visual of what the proposal is from the southwest of the site. This displays a retaining wall fairly centrally from the lower on the site, between the lower level and the higher level of the site, and this has got the ramp to it to access the lower level to the higher level, and there's also a ramp here. So there's that connection, and there's also bin storage proposed here at the under the ramp. So there's undercraft bin storage, where at current the bins are stored outside in the open. So this is taken again from north where it's proposed, and again you can see Hollygate in the background there. The proposal forms part of the Home Firth Town Centre Access Plan, which aims to support economic growth through investment in improvements at key junctions which focus on reducing current and forecast congestion, improving journey time reliability and widening sustainable travel opportunities. So a number of third parties have raised comments in relation to the wider access plan outside the red line area, but as these are outside the application sites, these do not form part of the application before members today. So members have a full detailed report in front of them. However, offers intend to discuss some of the key considerations. In terms of the principle of the development, there are considered to be 2 main strands to this. So the first strand is the acceptability of the proposal within the designated Home Firth Town Centre, along 2 shopping or secondary shopping frontages, this being one along Huddersfield Road and the other one being along Hollygate. Policies LP13 and LP14 of the local plan seek to protect the role and function of Home Firth Town Centre, as well as its viability and its vitality. Whilst the proposal would result in the loss of a retail use, the market is only held 2 days a week, and Home Firth Town Centre has a good mix of main town centre uses within it, including a number of retail uses. Officers therefore do not consider the market's loss to compromise the role and function of the Home Firth Town Centre, and the proposal does not result in a dominance of non-retail uses along the secondary shopping frontage by the loss of this. The Kirklees local plan states how other non-shopping uses can also play an important role in the vibrancy of town centres. Officers hold the view that the car park would provide a complementary facility to Holmfirth Town Centre, supporting it to be attractive to shoppers, employers and tourists. Officers also consider that the proposal would improve pedestrian accessibility with the creation of 2 new pedestrian routes between Holligate and Huddersfield Road, thereby helping to support existing businesses within the centre. Overall, officers consider that the proposal would not compromise the viability and vitality of Holmfirth Town Centre or its role and function, and that the proposal would complement the existing town centre provision. So moving on to the second strand of the principle of development, it's the acceptability of the loss of a community use, this being the market hall. Policy LP 48 of the Kirklees local plan sets out exceptions for when the loss of community facilities will be acceptable. One such exception is that an alternative facility of equivalent or better standard will be provided, either on site or in an equally accessible location. The licence to operate the market was secured by Holmfirth Forward in December 2021. Holmfirth Forward is actively looking for a suitable venue within the town centre, and it is estimated that an alternative market will be running next year, well, hopefully this year. Kirklees markets have informed officers that the future of the market is assured by the granting of the licence. Kirklees market have noted that they are hoping to get at least the same number of stalls as existing on at least 2 days a week, like existing. Another exception outlined in the plan for LP 48 is that there is adequate alternative provision in the locality to serve the local community, which is in an equally accessible location. Whilst there is not currently another market facility within the area, there are a number of goods within the market which you'd expect to see sold within the town centre. So therefore, those goods, you're not losing those goods in that respect that are sold at the market in that area. The proposal is therefore considered to be in accordance with Policy LP 48. So moving on to the impacts of the loss of the market hall on the conservation area, just show that the market hall there is present on the right and how it appeared in 1904. So officers and Kirklees Conservation and Design considered that alterations, demolitions and extensions to this building have resulted in a building which is now barely recognisable as a chapel, which it once was, as you can see there in the 1904 photo. As displayed in this side, most of the facade has been demolished and a hip roof has been built in place of the original gable roof. The sheet metal extension to the rear, which faces Holligate, is also considered to negatively impact upon the conservation area. So this building is only considered to make a slight positive contribution to the significance of the conservation area, as some remnants of the historic detailing survive. Its loss is therefore considered to cause less than substantial harm to the significance of the conservation area, but this harm is considered to be slight. Where less than substantial harm is identified to the significance of a designated heritage asset, planning policy outlines that this harm should be weighed against the public benefits, and the public benefits of the scheme are listed in paragraph 10.68 and section 11 of the report and will be discussed later, but these public benefits are considered to clearly outweigh this slight harm to the significance. So moving on to the impact of the proposed development on the character and appearance of the area, the proposal to extend the car park would help open up attractive views of the hillside and mills from Huddersfield Road to the north, as well as enhance views of the river and listed buildings on Holligate. The widened bridge and low-level public area to the south of the site is also considered to create a more pedestrian-friendly area, as well as increase accessibility in the locality. Details of the surfacing materials are recommended as a condition to ensure a high-quality finish. In terms of the boundary walls, natural stone walls and metal railings are proposed around the site, and these are considered to be appropriate within this locality. A stone wall along Huddersfield Road is preferred by officers. As you can see, there's railing there, and this is considered to reduce the impact of parked cars from Huddersfield Road and to help emphasise views through the conservation area. And details of this wall, of a wall here, are recommended as a condition. The retaining walls throughout the site are also to be constructed in natural stone, which is also considered appropriate. The retaining wall between the low level and high level of the site, which is central, would help store the bins, as noted before, and this is considered to be a visual enhancement by reducing the visual clutter of the bins, and the details of the stone wall again can be conditioned. A new footway is proposed between the retaining wall to the west of the site and the boundary wall here. So there you can just see the footway there with the light there. Hopefully the other picture is just there as well. Officers have slight concerns with this. They find it unfortunate in that it's recessed and that there is a slight enclosed area here, but on balance there would be that accessibility through the site, which is direct, and motion sensor lighting would be there to reduce shadowing, and there'd also be passive surveillance from the businesses to the west of that footpath. So this, on balance, is considered acceptable. And overall, subject to conditions, officers consider that the proposed redeveloped and extended car park with the new widened pedestrian bridge and pedestrian area at the lower level would not cause detrimental harm to the visual amenities of the locality, nor would it cause harm to the significance of Home Firth Conservation Area or nearby listed buildings. In terms of highway safety, Kirklees Highways Development Management have raised no objections to the application and consider that the proposal would make a number of significant improvements to the existing car park. In addition to this, it's considered that the proposal would not cause unacceptable harm in respect of residential amenity, nor will it harm trees of a high amenity value. In terms of biodiversity, subject to the development being in accordance with the measures within the biodiversity measurement plan and planting plan, officers consider that the proposal is unlikely to cause harm to protected species and would provide net gains. In respect to flooding risk, most of the site is within flood zone 1, which is a low risk of flooding, but some of the sites closer to the river is within flood zone 2 with a medium risk of flooding, and a small section is within flood zone 3 with a high risk. The proposal is considered to pass the flood risk sequential test, and the Environment Agency and Kirklees Drainage have also raised no objection to the application, subject to conditions. Policy LP 27 of the local plan states that proposals involving building over existing culverts will not be permitted unless it can be demonstrated to be in the interests of public safety or to provide essential infrastructure, and that there will be no detrimental effect on flood risk or biodiversity. So there's a culvert running from the north to the south of the site, and given that this is the car park, redeveloped car park is proposed to be built over it, there is considered to be some conflict with policy there, policy LP 27, and nevertheless the culvert is beneath an existing car park, and the existing situation in respect to the culvert would not be significantly altered as a result of the proposal, and as noted, it's considered that the proposal would not increase the flood risk or have a detrimental effect on biodiversity. So whilst there is considered to be this slight conflict with policy LP 27, it's considered that there would be public benefits of the scheme listed in the conclusion section of the report which would outweigh such conflict. A number of these benefits include the creation of a pleasant pedestrian-friendly open space, the provision of enhanced pedestrian accessibility between Huddersfield Road and Holligate, as well as better access to the river home. The connectivity is also considered to help support businesses within the localities previously alluded to. There would be the removal of unattractive later additions to the Market Hall, and there would also be the provision of bin storage to help remove the unattractive clutter from the street. Significant improvements to the existing car park as well, including safer separate entrance and egress, better space bays, safe cycle storage and electric charging points. There would be enhanced views from the river, hillside and listed buildings from Huddersfield Road, and the provision of additional parking, which would be a complementary facility to the town centre, supporting it to be attractive to shoppers, employees and tourists. So 45 representations have been received in respect of this application prior to the report being published. 27 of these object to the application, 11 raised general comments and 7 offer support. The comments raised are addressed within the report. 2 representations have been received after the publication of the report as outlined in the written update before members, and these comments are also addressed in this update. That said, it's noted that concerns have been raised by third parties as well as Home Valley Parish Council in relation to construction activities in terms of nuisance, highways, safety and disruption to businesses. A construction environmental management plan is recommended as a condition to ensure that all reasonable steps are taken to minimise and mitigate disruption and nuisance, and the applicant will be required to demonstrate discussions with local businesses and residents have taken place in relation to this. So in conclusion, officers consider that the significant public benefits of the proposal outweigh the harm by virtue of conflict with policy LP 27. It is therefore recommended that the application is approved subject to the conditions in the report. I've got nothing further to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Stuart.
Yeah, so we have Richard Ashley.
Water at the University of Sheffield, a chartered civil and environmental engineer with more than 50 years working on water and wastewater systems. I've advised government, been scientific advisor to the House of Lords and advised around the world, OECD and in Australia. I've produced a lot of guidance, national and international, on flood risk management, sustainable drainage and the economics of green infrastructure. I'm a trustee of River Home Connections and speaking on behalf of the charity, obviously not Councillor Richards. We're highly respected and we brought in more than £500,000 investment to the Valley since 2015, engaging hundreds of volunteers, thousands of school visits and other activities. And we've upgraded the duck feeding area at Home Firth, Sands, Thongs Bridge and Lockwood. Whilst we broadly support the development, we'd like to suggest design enhancements to better include the value of the river itself, specifically accessed by the public and ourselves. We would like to see ramped pedestrian access from the car park to the event space and bridge in the proposal to be continued down to the riverside. This would allow access for disabled people and prams as well as the public in general. There are clear economic benefits from doing this. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, the human value of improved access to rivers has been clearly demonstrated. We've used the national tool to estimate that the benefits of one person's visit per visit is around £1,000. And the educational visit benefits £9,000 per group of students per visit, just by gaining access to the river at that point. The river access is very difficult for River Home Connections, and we are expected, as we were asked to remove a bin last week by the council to go down there and clear up the river. The gate proposed is inadequate. We would need ladders. Very difficult for our elderly volunteers to do this. The additional extended ramp should incur no additional cost.
30 seconds.
Included in the plans, and will not need to be built beyond the curtilage of the listing proposal or affect the integrity of the flood water capacity. And enhance the river corridor, we would, as a charity, undertake to work with the council to do that. We're offering to help in the design of this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So we've got Margaret Dale.
Thank you. I'm here to support the application as well. Home Firth has strong associations with the High Street Task Force, whose support will be soon coming to Kirklees. It also helped to identify 25 factors that influence town centre viability and vitality. These cluster into 4 headings, and I will use them to comment on the application. The main shortcoming, as Richard has said, is the provision of amenities. The opportunity to enable access to and enhance the riverbank has been missed, and we hope that this will be rectified as part of the Small Towns Investment Plan. We had hoped for an attractive multi-purpose space that would provide a home for events and a place where a regular market could run. This vision is absent from the application. I accept the structure contains some provision for markets and events, but it looks just like a car park. The committee is therefore asked to consider what more can be done to ensure this site will be available for regular and frequent markets and events and gives access to the river. The application ticks the accessibility box by providing better routes for pedestrians and people with mobility problems, prams and bikes. It hopes it will address some of the congestion problems by improving the entrance and access to the car park, and hopefully the town access scheme will reduce other congestion caused by illegal and inconsiderate parking. It also ticks the appearance box by ridding the town of a building that has passed its sell-by date. It opens up the vista between Holygate and Huddersfield Road, and some effort has been made to fit in with the conservation area and provide landscaping. However, the design is uninspiring, and much more could be done to create an attractive public open space that we'd hope for. The fourth is action. Please get on with this. This proposal has been around for 3 years and created a lot of uncertainty. Over 2,500 people expressed their views on the first plan, but since then there have been few opportunities to engage in the detail of the scheme. It appears to have been driven by the loud voices of a minority. If citizen engagement had been better, some of the shortcomings would have been avoided. So let's hope the development of the Home Firth Master Plan will be more inclusive. So in asking the committee to approve the application, please listen to the views of all interested parties and ensure that respect and consideration is given to businesses and residents during the construction phase. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a Steve Davey.
Thank you. My name is Steve Davey. I chair Home Firth Conservation Group, which produced a conservation area appraisal for Home Firth. I have a degree in town planning and was a chartered town planner for many years. I'm also director of Home Firth 4, which seeks to enhance the future of the town centre. The Conservation Group supports the application for a number of very good reasons, which we've already heard. But as a conservation, not a preservation group, we value highly the physical and visual heritage of Home Firth and the contribution it makes to the growing economic and social fabric, which is surviving well, given that small town retailing and purposes are changing rapidly. And this application contributes significantly to that process. However, we ask for some important mitigations be taken into account. We welcome the revisions that show the stone walling, which will add visual cohesion to the development, echoing the characteristic boundary markers in the wider valley. We ask that this be extended to include Huddersfield Road. If I understood the officer rightly, that is perhaps is already being done, but I'm not sure if that is the case. Where the predominant landscape of 4-storey buildings is now to be further punctuated by the visual voids of more car parking. Secondly, we value the conditions relating to materials and street furniture and ask that these be taken very seriously. And by that, we mean that the comments by Historic England and the Kirklees' own consultants relating to the Conservation Group's conservation area appraisal both say that this is important but can't be taken into account because the council has not adopted it. Further, the planning report comments that these conditions are, quote, to ensure that the street furniture is in keeping with the design of the town centre, end quote. One of the major conclusions of our appraisal is that there is no overall design centre town centre design cohesion that enhances the conservation area. For example, we've counted at least 7 designs of lampposts, as many designs of benches and planters, and it's as though there are seasons of grants or enhancements and different contractors have been used each time, so that vital details of signage, servicing, walling, street furniture, bollards and so forth add to clutter rather than cohesion. This contributes to the continuing scandal of Holmfirth being on the at-risk register. We suggest that as there is no approved palette of town centre design, this new development be adopted as a template for the future, and that as further changes are made to the rest of the town centre, that these be echoed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Got Elise Hayward.
Thank you. I want to speak in support of the planning proposal and also to thank the Council for listening and responding to the unprecedented feedback from the community in the initial consultation. The current plan is widely regarded in the Valley as a very considerable improvement. It's utterly right that not only our elected representatives, but also the many and various and informed voices of Valley people, as well as those who make the many successful festivals, are all heard in response to proposals which could irreversibly affect Holmfirth and the Home Valley. And I would also suggest that it's incumbent on elected representatives to be making real efforts to reach out to determine the views of the whole community they represent, including all the various active community groups who work so amicably with each other. While supporting the majority of the proposals, I would suggest that the enormous amount of work already done on the market proposals has depended on an understanding that the parking adjacent to the current market hall and the space released by its demolition would become a fluidly available space for at least a twice-weekly market, as well as for mustering and organising for the many community and festival events which so importantly support the local economy in terms of visitor attraction and footfall. The response to the parking questionnaire conducted in late December 2021, the busiest week of the year, demonstrated that 80% of the respondents experienced very little or no difficulty in parking in Holmfirth. And I would add that traffic would flow much more freely if the illegal parking in Victoria Street were to be stopped. We're all aware of the changing face of the High Street and of changing car use. And I know that these plans are specifically focused on the roads and traffic in Holmfirth, but it is vital that any changes are made with an eye to the future. And I would argue that community events and activities are becoming increasingly important in the life of the Valley. And we need spaces that are imaginatively designed to accommodate and support them. The area of the current car park and the space released by the demolition of the market hall is in the centre of Holmfirth. It should be a flexible, multi-use area for the new market and for community activities with all the resources and facilities necessary for that. And I'd ask the committee to take this into account when determining conditions for the planning officers. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a Michael Bell.
Thank you, Chair. I may not speak as eloquently as my colleagues. However, I'm also a member of Holmfirth Forward. However, I was brought in specifically to work on the market application. So I was part of the team that managed to secure the licence in principle that we continue operating the market within Holmfirth. As the market team, we want to regenerate the market and make it a truly modern market. The reason that the market has failed and diminished in Holmfirth, we think has been a massive consideration of the building it's been in. The open space, we absolutely agree, suits purpose and the facilities that it contains. The only thing that we're aware of is there is insufficient time allocated to that space for a truly operational market to run. So we're in full support of the application, And we know that we've got work to do moving forward to try and secure that ideal central space for a future market in Home Firth. That's it. Thank you.
Nice and brief.
Okay, so what, Councillor Firth?
Okay.
Yeah, ready when you are, Councillor Firth.
Got you. Thank you. Can you hear me, Richard?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Yes, well, I've listened intently to the people who have put forward this plan. I have got to say, I can't agree with all that plan. I don't agree with the pulling down of the market hall, and of course the making of a car park in the centre of Home Firth. Generally, generally town centres have got shops, and that's what they have in town centres. They don't have things like markets, etc., at the point where at car parks. The market has always been at the centre. It's always worked very, very well, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't do now. Although, as I say, it's been a situation where there's a lot of people got involved, and I don't know how well they know Home Firth. They all appear to know Home Firth very well, but I don't think they know it at all. Home Firth, first of all, if you're going to do anything in Home Firth, which is never done, you go to the businesses and you ask the businesses what their situation is. Because without those businesses, you haven't got an Home Firth. It's as simple as that. You've gone to take the centre of Home Firth. You're going to knock down the indoor market. You're going to make it into a big car park. Well, all I can say is that should be shops. That should be shops where all that is. Most town centres have shops. Where I've ever been, there's always been shops. You're then wanting to move further down to Crown Bottom and take part of that car park up for your market. Therefore depriving the co-op of parking space if it's a busy day. You're trying to put a quart into a pint pot and it doesn't work. We've got the riverside job. You're talking about the river. Do you know, I don't know whether any of you know that's been spouting on about the river. We've had problems. I have personally had problems from people ringing me about rats. That actually, I've had photographs sent to me about people have got up off a seat in the Memorial Park and immediately a couple of rats have taken the place where they've been sat. This is because people have been feeding the ducks with bread, etc., and there's nothing worse than bread to attract rats. Any cereal will attract rats. People should know that, but apparently people don't know that. That's why it's happening. The council won't poison the rats, so I don't know whether they've got rid of them or not, or got the piper in, but it really needs that sorting out. There's lots of things need sorting out before you start talking about pulling buildings down and redesigning Home Firth. You're going to make it into a museum if you're not careful, because at the end of the day, all the good shops have gone. Think about it. We've lost the banks. Why have we lost the banks? Because we've lost them because they knew that all this was coming. They've got out of it and they've gone to other places like Slathwaite, Honley, wherever they've gone, they're doing all right to the banks. We've got no banks now apart from Barclays, open 3 days a week. Do you think that's good for bringing people into the village and good for commerce when you've got one bank open 3 days a week? I don't. And most of the people that have been speaking today, I don't know them. I've never met them before in my life. And I worked in Home Firth for 50 years, so come on. You know, there isn't much I don't know about Home Firth. And as far as I'm concerned, if all this goes forward, It'll ruin Holmfirth. The people will move out of Holmfirth like there were no tomorrow. Councillor Davis managed to sign off the situation for the town centre without even talking to myself and Nigel Patrick. He did it off his own bat. This is just typical example of dictatorship. There's nothing, you know, you talk about
30 seconds.
People and the shops and things. This is nothing but dictatorship, and it will not, repeat, not get my vote at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Patrick?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Right, thank you, Chair. Let's look at this at its simplest form. This is a planning application to demolish a useful community building and to replace it with a simple car park. That's all it is. Knock a building down that has a use and replace it with a flat area to put cars on. That's all it is. It's a very expensive car park to build. It's probably going to be one of the most expensive car parks to build in Kirklees, but that's another matter. All the speakers so far talk about the viability of the town, and yet there hasn't been a single shopkeeper speak. The businesses are not here to speak, and there are a lot of businesses very concerned about what's happening in Holmfirth at the moment. And members of the committee will know that because shopkeepers are been coming to full council meetings to tell you of their concerns about what's going on in Holmfirth. Business people do not come to council meetings unless there is a big problem. So I would like you to bear that in mind. This, of course, is part of the controversial town centre access plan that some shopkeepers oppose. The new pay and display car park is supposed to replace the free car parking on Victoria Street that will be lost. It won't replace free car parking, nor will it replace the disabled car parking. Blue badge holders will see a big reduction in places where they can park. Don't let anyone tell you different. There's going to be a massive reduction in places where disabled people can park. The reason for the refusal is the loss of the community building. The Labour Cabinet and the Cabinet members will try to say the building has no viable use, but that is simply not true. The market was and can still be viable. That's why the council recently reissued the market licence to a third party, some of whom are there today speaking to you, to run a market. But there's no alternative site being found yet, and it's certainly not been discussed in detail with myself or Councillor Firth. We're being kept in the dark on where the new market is going to be held. But they don't need to find a new space for a new market because they already have a market hall, and all it needs is investment. And Kirklees Council has just set aside £1.5 million to invest in Holmfirth, and so far that money is not allocated to anything. They could allocate that money to this building to improve it and make it into a much better market hall. What we've seen over the years is that market run down by the council, and we know there was a decision made at budget meeting about 5 years ago to close it to save £15,000. In reality, no savings have been made because the market has continued to operate twice a week. So the council set aside this £1.5 million. It could reinvest it in this building. We don't need another car park. We've got enough car parks in Holmfirth. So I would say to you as committee members that you have got good reason to refuse this. You can refuse this on the loss of a community building that is needed. There's one other small point, the access and egress into the site. Although it's been changed in the plans, it's still very, very difficult to get out onto Huddersfield Road. And I don't see anything there which is going to improve the safety of that junction, because all the traffic is congested there, but with the traffic lights. So I would ask you to oppose this. And oh, there's one more thing. And
30 seconds.
One more thing touched on by the speakers. If you are able to approve this, can I ask that you condition so that the applicant pays compensation to the businesses for loss of earnings? Because so far the council, who is the applicant, is refusing to pay businesses compensation for loss of earnings during the construction phase of this. And I think
Thank you. Thank you. Your time's up.
Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Chair. A little bit of the history has already been mentioned, but I think for the committee, I'll just fill in them with a little bit more. This goes back, I think as one of the speakers says, well back to 2018, if I remember rightly, where the original scheme proposed would have created a link road with a bridge going across where the market is now. And at the time, there were great concerns about the damage to Holligate, the businesses, and the view from many, many people that would damage the whole character of the town. There were many other issues raised as well. That formed part of the consultation responses that, as well as being pointed out, was extensive. There were over 2,500 respondents, and out of those respondents, over 80%, well 81.3% actually voted is the wrong word, but made their views very clear in the survey that they were against that original road access scheme. The views of those respondents were very much then taken into account by the council, informing the proposals from then on. So for me, this is a great example of place-based working and of collaboration between the council and the community. And not only was the initial consultation in April 2019, there was a follow-up consultation in September 2019, whereby the revised plans, which are very similar to what we've looked at here, were presented to the community, and again the community gave their approval, if you like, or positive responses to those proposals. And then following that, also in July 2020, there was another follow-up consultation with local businesses as well. So I think it's fair to say that the whole history of this has involved extensive consultation, extensive partnership working, and I'm very confident that going forward that will continue to be the approach from the council, working closely with the community and various community groups within it. And I hear from speakers a little bit earlier about some of their concerns and some of the things that they want to work on going forward. And again, certainly from my perspective as a ward councillor, I'm very happy to facilitate and enable those discussions in the future. In terms of the businesses, we do hear sometimes from some members that businesses are against this. Well, I speak to the businesses as well and visit them. And, you know, I can report through to you as a committee that, yeah, there are one or two businesses that are unhappy, but I can also point you to many other businesses that think this is the best thing that's happening to the town. It's providing them with confidence that we as a council are prepared to invest in the future of Home Firth, and I think it's an added attraction to bringing people into the town as well. So please don't be under the illusion that somehow this is us against the business community. This is far from it. And in fact, the whole plan is about how we can create a better experience in Home Firth, particularly for pedestrians, so that we redress that balance between pedestrians and vehicles. We enhance footfall and improve what we call dwell time, so that when they come to Home Firth, they actually spend more time in the town. They don't just pop in their car, buy a couple of things and disappear. There actually is a pleasant environment to be at. There are places for them to sit, to socialise, and to stay within the town. It is crucial that this new area is multi-purpose. It's designed that way. It has utilities built in, both electric, water, sound systems, etc., for events and markets. And I'm again confident that discussions between Home Firth Forward and the council will be positive in terms of using this area for community purposes, as well as a car park going forward. So certainly I would ask the committee to support this recommendation. I think it's a key investment for the town. It's a sign of things that we want to do. And don't forget, this is just the first stage. There'll be many other things to come. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we have Jonathan Standen.
Chair, thank you for the invitation to speak in support of the proposal. My name is Jonathan Standen. I speak on behalf of the applicant, Kirklees Council. Officers have fully described the scheme and explained how the planning application meets policy objectives. The applicant agrees with the application report, conclusions and the recommendations to this committee. Home Firth has many positive attributes and it's important as a centre providing services for the local community and its thriving local economy, but also it is important to the wider district as a destination for visitors who experience the town's warm welcome, enjoy its heritage, whilst also acting as a gateway to its wider countryside setting. The proposed car park development is a smaller part of a wider £3.9 million initiative by Kirklees Council to improve the public realm, to significantly improve accessibility within a town centre, bringing with it many long-lasting positives, as my colleague Andy Raleigh will describe shortly. The proposed car park development will significantly enhance safe pedestrian access by providing connectivity between Huddersfield Road and Hollowgate, with new dedicated pathways and widened access which cross the River Home, making retail businesses more accessible, and through a suite of new security measures in the car park will make the town centre increasingly attractive and to customers and investors by improving and underperforming town centre sites. Whilst the scheme replaces an existing building, an enhanced level of market provision will continue seamlessly within the town, as will be described. An attractive landscaped environment will complement access to nearby shops and retail outlets within the town, thereby making a valuable contribution to the vitality of the local economy. The proposed car park area has been designed to a high specification with new lighting, secure bicycle and electric vehicle charging points, and include new surface water drainage infrastructure. The space will also function as an important community and social space, which will add to the vitality of the town, supporting local businesses. The development will greatly enhance the existing public realm within Home Firth Town Centre and the Home Firth Conservation Area through the addition of high-quality building materials that reflect the local vernacular, both in terms of materials and palette. The addition of sympathetic landscaping arrangements, which reflect existing landscape themes.
30 seconds.
And the addition of new high-quality street furniture. In summary, the proposal accords with the development plan, including the neighbourhood plan, and granting a planning permission will secure a long-term improvement to the public realm, which will be to the benefit of local people, local businesses and visitors alike. The Council asks that members support the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Andy Raleigh.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Andy Raleigh, the Project Manager of the scheme. The scheme brought to the Planning Committee today is part of the Home Firth Town Centre Access Plan, a £3.9 million investment in partnership with West Yorkshire Combined Authority. As has been described, this is more than just an extension of Huddersfield Road car park. The car park will also provide a community space drawing in visitors and boosting the local economy. Whilst the proposal includes the removal of an existing building, the new operator of the Home Firth market, Home Firth Forward, has recently been appointed and will ensure continuation of the market in Home Firth. Chris Cotton, the market's lead, will speak shortly and provide more detail on this. The project will encourage active travel and bring huge improvements to the public realm of Home Firth. The development will provide accessibility benefits for the town centre, aiding both able-bodied and disabled users by creating wider, safer footways and 3 new routes between Huddersfield Road and Hollowgate. Extensive consultation has been undertaken in the development of the scheme. The design has been shaped from feedback sought from technical consultees such as the Environment Agency and Historic England, and importantly the local community. Prior to the outlined business case, 3 public consultations were held. We've been keen to listen and have designed the scheme to accommodate this feedback. Changes to the design include the new access to the west of the site, to the chocolate box and Nellie's wooden workshop, the Undercroft bin storage to tidy up Hollowgate, the provision of powerful festive lighting and the gated access to the river for River Homes connections. The new development has been designed as a modern community space with future-proof infrastructure that will boast electric vehicle charging spaces, pop-up electricity and water points for events and markets. The development has been designed with the future in mind, and careful design to the structural elements ensures that the layout can easily be added to when additional funding and new schemes are brought forward. We've received positive feedback from businesses in the community. The consultation has highlighted that local residents and businesses are keen to avoid disruption during construction. Continuation of access for both residents and businesses is a priority. The project team will share the construction phasing plan with local businesses and the community to keep all stakeholders informed as to the traffic management and works duration. Plans are in place to ensure the work site office will also be located out of the town centre to minimise the impact on parking availability for visitors, businesses and residents during construction. In summary, the development of the new car parking community space will improve the quality of life for residents while boosting the visitor experience and economy. The scheme will unlock the pedestrian and disabled access throughout the town and act as a catalyst for future benefits.
Thank you. Chris, go.
Got Chris Cotton.
Thank you, Chair. Chris Cotton, Strategic Lead for Markets, and I'm just going to talk about the continuation of amenity, i.e. the market in Holmfirth and how that's progressing. A previous speaker did mention the fact that the council back in 2018 did agree to close the facility, the Holmfirth Market building, for economic and fit for purpose reasons. But there were following further discussions, it was decided that the market, well, not decided, it's the fact that the market is an important part of our Holmfirth community, and it's essential that we keep a market running and being organised in Holmfirth. So to that end, the agreement was reached that the council would look for a responsible, appropriate and competent operator to hold the licence to run markets in Holmfirth. The process began, there was discussions in 2020, members were involved in those discussions as to how we put out the advert to look for the new operator to hold the licence, and then a process was put out in December 2020 where we advertised for organisations, individuals, market operators, anyone to express an interest in holding the licence to run markets in Holmfirth. Now, we did get interest early days. We got 7 or 8 people interested, and then we moved on to discussions with interested parties to see how far they wanted to go in relation to the responsibilities that this meant and what they were taking on, and also for the council to ascertain whether the people or the person that would end up with the licence was
30 seconds.
Was able to do that. Following that process, Holmfirth Forward came out as the most appropriate applicant, and they've been offered the licence to run markets in Holmfirth to make sure that there's a continuation of markets provision in Holmfirth, and that would continue after the building was closed for demolition.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Well, thank you to everybody for their comments today. It's really good to hear from y'all. I'm generally supportive of the proposals that have been set out, and I'd be happy to put my hand up and I've forgotten all my language now.
Are you moving?
I'll be happy to move it. Can I just mention one thing quickly? Is that all right? You know, the point that River Home Connections made about the ramped pedestrian access to continue to the riverside. I actually think this is it seems quite a useful thing, really. And I know you're saying potentially you've got concerns about the viability, but given that this would open up potentially access, I think it is worth considering given all the work that they are doing. So if we're looking at this as a partnership, I would really like us to potentially consider this. And we say in the report as well, in the update that we got, it says a gated access to a ladder is proposed to the north of the river for RHC to access the river, and it is considered that this would not make access for RHC any more difficult than existing. I appreciate what you're saying there, but I think we should just be mindful of our language when we're saying things like this, because potentially it is, they've noted it could be difficult for people who are a little bit older or with people with mobility problems and things like that. So I think it's just, we need to make sure we're considering that in the round.
Councillor Upwell, if I could just comment on that and just say that could be conditioned as I see it, because of the fact I've been down there twice in these last 2 weeks, and the muck and rubbish that's down there goes down that river, and if they haven't got access to it, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. I'll just say that then. I think if that could be conditioned, I'd love that. Otherwise, happy to propose. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Sokol.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I read this report very interestingly. Yeah, the removal of the market building in Homepath have many benefits to the community and the business in the Homepath town centre. Chair, the removal bill, which is not the building at the moment, Market Hall is not much used by the shoppers or some other community. Improve town removal bill, improve town centre and make it more attractive for shoppers who come to Homepath town centre. Chair, the brilliant design of the extended car park, I would like to everywhere. I never seen ever this design of the proposed design in the Homepath town. Yeah, it's definitely will help to prevent parking on narrow Hollowgate Road on the other side, making the road safe for highway users, the car going around there. Creating of additional pedestrian open space would improve the appearance of the locality, yeah? Because at the moment we can't see the other way from Huddersfield Road to Hollowgate, yeah? And propose new widened bridge to Hollowgate will be used as pedestrian access between Hollowgate and Huddersfield. Chair, Councillor Donald Firth has said nobody knows the Homepath town longer than him. I've been driving buses through the Huddersfield town centre for 40 years, from 1968 to there, from Huddersfield to Homepath, Homeport to home and Parkhead. And I knew Donald Firth electronic shop in town centre, Homepath town centre, that I think is being closed down now. We're talking about those business have been gone down since, because there is a congestion, traffic congestion all around in town centre.
Also, so can you move on? We seem to be.
You want to quick
get your bus in overdrive, please.
Yeah. No, know that, but I know that Homeford Township more than I think Donald or Nigel Patrick has said. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised. I don't know, the Council Nigel Patrick or Donald Firth have been spoken here on behalf of any objector or speaking on behalf of the supporter. We have seen more supporter here in support of this scheme rather than opposing that scheme. Chair, I think we got many benefit of this proposed scheme. Yeah, we got 3.9 million investment from combined authority, and it will improve the business in the Homeford Township rather than close it down as he claimed by two councillors. Yeah, that's only belief. So I think Councillor Harpreet has moved it. So I'm happy to second Harpreet's proposal. Thank you.
So now we have Councillor Bellamy.
Thank you, Chair. Well, listening to all the speakers, this has just absolutely opened up a million and one questions to me. First of all, it'd be nice to know, have businesses been consulted on this plan? As when all said and done, not all business owners are residents. I'd also like to know that instead of the demolition costs, would it actually be feasible to spend the money improving what was originally Castle's Garage and then became the Market Hall? If the plan, if this plan is to go ahead, obviously there will be disruption to the businesses, and I'd like to know, would there be some sort of form of compensation for them if needed? And it's also been mentioned that the car park is actually to be a flexible space for maybe a market and events. Well, if this is the case, then why can't the original building be used for that, for you know, events and a market, as it has been? And is there actually any evidence out there that Unferth really needs any more parking spaces? Because I can honestly say, and just the Council of Stockholm, I actually also know Unferth Centre quite well, and I actually used to live in the Orme Valley at one time, so I do know it, and I have never ever struggled to park whenever I've been there. So if somebody could answer them questions for me, to be appreciated. Thank you.
If you want an instant answer, we'll get one straight away. We won't leave it.
So I've heard a few comments there. I think there's in relation to the compensation for businesses. I mean, the compensation is not something we could condition. It's not a material planning. But at the same time, we, as noted in what I said, a construction environmental management plan could be conditioned, as that's in, I think that's in it's 10.141, and it notes in the report that the construction environmental management plan will be required to demonstrate discussions with local businesses, and residents will have taken, and residents, so that's to ensure that they are consulted within that process to mitigate disruption. And then there was the comment on the viability of the building, or whether it can be brought back into use as a market. And I've received documentation from the applicant and the agent stating that the building would have to undertake some repair and that it wouldn't be viable. I mean, I've not seen any robust evidence for that, but that we're considering the application under policy LP 48 here, and that there's no reasonable grounds to refuse the application in our opinion on the lack of the viability there. We're considering it on the fact that there's there's going to be alternative provision provided for the market in the long term.
Right, thank you. Right, we've got now then to speak Councillor Armour.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unlike Councillor Sokol, I've not had the experience of driving buses around Holmfirth Centre. I have driven police cars around it, so I also know the area. I'm a little bit worried here. I recall in the 1960s, 1970s, when the now defunct Huddersfield County Borough Council chose to improve the town centre by large-scale demolition of buildings. I don't think it worked out very well. I don't think it stood the test of time. I'm worried about this scheme. I've no doubt that there certainly is I would even say go as far as say a need for change. I'm not certain that this is the best change, not certain this is the correct change to pursue. I am unconvinced. It does seem to be fashionable nowadays to have large open spaces in town centres, not perhaps the best use. I'm not massively impressed with this plan, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Tom Marchington.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it's just worth reminding that this the debate we're having there is about the planning situation, the planning application we've got in front of us, and perhaps there's discussions to be had elsewhere other than this meeting about whether we agree with the scheme or not. So I'll try and confine my remarks to the planning measure. I think the question I had is, and I think it was Professor Ashley, sorry if I've got your title, your name wrong, right at the beginning, who talked about the ramp access down to the river that's mentioned. Now, my question would be is if the council were minded to include such access to the riverside in a scheme, would that require a separate planning application? Would they have to come back with planning for that, or is there a possibility of us to sort of condition that at the moment? So I'll ask that question, if that's sorry, are you ready to respond?
Are you happy for me? Yeah, I mean, I personally feel it's something that we could potentially condition, but the scheme has been devised with the comments of River Home Connections into account, and I think there's been issues with the sort of viability of that with the money in front of it there, and officers are assessing the application in front of them at the moment. So yeah, that's okay.
Thank you. I think just further to what Stuart was just mentioning then, we can impose that condition in terms of a scheme to provide that access, but it might not go as far as that ramp, for example, because as we're saying, there's the viability involved with that, and it could also fall outside of the remit of this application, so it could be then a section 73 application, like a variation of condition, should this permission be granted. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Well, I think having listened to the debate, I would think if it is possible to sort of facilitate that in a way that doesn't create massive complications in the future, I think I would be minded to do that. That's great. I think any big change in a town centre is significant, and obviously it raises different issues. I think the other point about the design of the scheme and everything about the marketing that's been brought up in debate is about a flexible space, and I know there are a number of places that do that very well. The ones that I have in mind is Ripon Market, which most of the week is for use for car parking, apart from on market day, but that's a traditional market square. I think that works quite well. At Buxton, where my father's from, Market Square there, again, is parking apart from market days. It's not regular, but I mean, Goker and Batley on festival days, actually the car parking there is used as a market, and that works quite well. And I hope, having looked at the design, you just hope that the design would work for that in that way. But it's not about the design of it; it's the willingness to do it. And I do appreciate that I think Chris Cotton said that actually the licence has been reissued, it's been maintained. That's fine. That the opportunity is there, but actually there needs to be that real push for the market, the willingness to do that, and also for the market to provide something different to draw. And I think Holmfirth has been really good at that over the years. We've got businesses in Goker actually go to the existing market that's available and providing food, different foods that people want. The vegetarian and vegan foods go down very well, but something that's different. So it's not just if the application facilitates that, that's great, but it's the willingness from the community and local businesses to actually use that facility to attract people into Home First and to do something that's a bit different to add to the already vibrant town centre and experience that's there. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of questions. One is about losing the market. I'm a regular visitor to Homeford, so I have to admit personal interest here, so I frequently go when they've got art, music and food events on. It doesn't seem to be a lot more parking spaces. It seems only 2 extra parking spaces are being provided by losing the market hall. I know it says there are a couple of disabled spaces and 3 for electric vehicle charging, but looking at the charges, they're relatively slow ones, and if this is a short stay car park, people won't gain much of a charge if they're coming from a fair distance. So that was a question I had about it. I like the idea of more access to the river, and obviously I would support Councillor Uppel and Councillor Marchington's comments about access to the river, bearing in mind I might be one of those volunteers trying to get in the river to retrieve the rubbish in the future. The other point I wanted to make was, with the changing in our climate and our extra wet summers, you're losing a market hall. Will the market get a proper space to move to? I mean, because a lot of the, as Councillor Marchington mentioned, businesses from Golka sell food in the market, and I think the artisan bakery from Slaithwaite usually, Slaithwaite? I'm sorry, I know, sorry. I'll think I'll be an incomer till I die here, I'm afraid. But, you know, the market has been very vibrant in the past. It's sad to see it so quiet at the moment, but you know, I do go there at least twice a month. So I'd like to be assured that the public space would be more inspiring than it appears to be on the pictures that we've been provided with at the moment. I think that's all I've got to say. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor McGuinn.
Okay, there's two grounds for rejecting this application. The first one is the acceptability for town centres to compromise in their retail usage, and this is definitely one of those which will do that by taking out some retail part of the town. And the second part, as mentioned by Councillor Patrick, was the loss of community use. There seems to be sort of like a splitting on about its future. We've had visits to the council meetings showing disapproval how the future, literally the future direction of the town will look. So basically, summing up, loss of a community building, only 2 more spaces car parking spaces created. Councillor Patrick mentioned that there's going to be loss of disabled spaces from elsewhere due to other considerations. So, taking it overall, I think for the 2 reasons I've given, I think we should reject this application. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Right, seeing as there's nobody else, I'll have to give my 2 pence here. I do believe that should be conditioned, reckon access to the river service to keep it clean. I think that's a must. I mean, we go on now as well about the market. Councillor Patrick admits it's not good. So that to me, the market. Councillor Patrick in his submission admitted it wasn't good. Now, from what I can see as well, as I say, I've been over there twice now in the last 2 weeks. I get there quite regularly anyway, living in Meltham. I think what it looks a pretty picture. I really do. And I'm 100% for this. So I'll leave it now to...
Just before we go to vote, just a couple of things. First of all, want to call out your name, you don't have to touch your microphone, just leave them alone. They'll automatically be turned on for you. Also, can I just confirm, obviously, we've got Councillor Uppal who moved it, we've got Councillor Sokol who seconded it. In relation to Councillor Lyon's comment about wanting the access to the river to be conditioned, are you happy to proceed on that basis? Officers, do you want to? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So, yeah, in terms of like an additional condition then, securing a scheme for the provision of access to the river for maintenance purposes. Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so on that basis, we'll go to the vote. So we'll start with Councillor Armour.
I'm against the proposal.
Councillor Bellamy.
Against.
Councillor McGuinn.
Against.
Councillor Lee Richards.
Abstain.
Councillor Marchington.
For.
Councillor Oller.
For.
Councillor Sarwar.
For.
Councillor Uppal.
For.
Councillor Sokol.
For.
Councillor Korshik.
For.
Councillor Homewood.
For.
Councillor Lyons. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for, 3 against, 1 abstention. So the officer recommendation is approved. We are now just going to have a quick 5-minute break whilst we just sort out attendees. Thank you.
Right, back to the list. Item 9, page 111, which is 8 to 10 Moorbottom Road, Thornton Lodge.
Thank you, Chair. My name is William Simcock and I am the case officer for this application. 8 to 10 Moorbottom Road is a two-storey mid-terrace property built in stone with a blue slate roof, and it's in a residential area. This shows its location within the street. It is near the end of a row of terrace properties and among houses of mostly similar design. This is the application property here, and these are just some alternative views of it and the general area. The proposal is for the erection of extensions comprising a 3-metre two-storey rear extension with an additional single-storey 1.2-metre projection beyond this, and for the erection of dormers to the front and rear, and associated works consisting of the formation of steps leading up to the ground floor and the formation of a basement. The works in question have already been carried out and can be seen here. And I will also show you the photographs. This is a view into the rear yard. We can just about see the basement on the right. And here also. The works have been carried out already, and before these works began, it had planning permission, reference 2020 90199, for the erection of two-storey rear extension and front and rear dormers, and work was commenced on it, but in several respects it wasn't carried out in accordance with the approved plans. However, we do have to bear in mind in making the decision that there is a fallback position for the implementation of the original scheme for the two-storey rear extension. So in terms of sheer volume, the majority of what can be seen on site has already had planning permission. Now in terms of design and appearance, let's go up to the photographs again. It is in an area of terraced houses which have a fairly uniform design, especially when viewed from the front. And in terms of the view from the rear, there is several of the houses have rear extensions, although most of them are not two-storey. The immediate neighbouring property to the left, however, does have quite a substantial two-storey extension, which is in fact of the same projection as the extension now being considered. And furthermore, there is a gradient up the street, so that the next property up, next property along, as we're looking on the left-hand photograph here, is at a slightly higher level. And it's noted that while the overall projection of the extensions that have been built exceeds the 3-metre limit for two-storey extensions that is generally recommended in the House Builder Design Guide, and also once the steps and basement are included, the development has taken up more than half of the original rear garden, 57% I've calculated. It is considered that given the context of the site with, as I said, the existing two-storey rear extension next door and rising land and going up the street to the west. The entire development would not seem overbearing or over-dominant or amount to overdevelopment of the site. Turning to the dormers, there are the rear dormer is a box-like structure, and it is and general box-like dormers are not considered very desirable. The House Builder Design Guide encourages them to match the features of the original building as much as possible. There is, in theory, there is a permitted development option of building a rear dormer, and this one very similar to this could have been built under permitted development rights if built independent of anything else, and subject to a 20mm setback and materials matching the existing roof. Built in conjunction with the other extensions, including the roof of the two-storey extension here, it would no longer be a permitted development option because it would exceed 40 cubic metres as is set out in the general permitted development order. However, going back to the original permission, the 2021, this did include the erection of a rear dormer, which was also of box-like design, somewhat wider and shallower, and in officers' view, this would not have been aesthetically better. And that is why it is what officers have proposed is that the permission be subject to the dormer being reclad in a more appropriate material, that is dark grey cladding, which was also conditioned for the 2020 application. And in terms of impact on residential amenity, it is considered for the view set out at length, the reasons set out at length in the officer's report, that it would not have a detrimental effect on either of the two side neighbours in terms of light or in terms of privacy. And again, it's seen as in context of quite a substantial extension, number 6, and the land in the opposite direction is slightly higher, and as can be seen on this photograph, there is the nearest, it would face the blank wall of an extension here at number 14. And it is considered that the proximity to the rear boundary would not be such as would create an overlooking problem in relation to properties to the north on Manchester Road. So this concludes my assessment of the main planning issues of the case, and there have been objections submitted which have been assessed and responded to in the report as well, and it is officers' recommendation that conditional permission can be granted. Thank you, Chair.
Right, so we have Ranjit Kaur.
Randy Single speak first, if that's okay.
Randy?
Yes.
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Randeep, and my mum is the owner of number 6, an adjoining property. Previously, we informed the officer that floor plans were inaccurate. As a result, new plans were published only yesterday. However, there are still issues, and these can be seen in the handout called protrusion. The left image shows the ground floor of the extension, and the middle image shows the first floor of the extension. The first floor is proposed to be wider than the ground floor. The rightmost image shows, when placed on top, the first floor will protrude beyond the ground floor into the shared passageway. This is beyond its own property boundary. Handout figure 4 shows this in relation to the actual properties. Number 6 is on the left, number 8 is on the right, and the red square between them is where the new proposal would occur. The delegated report states that the rear extension is short of the eastern boundary, but the new plans do not accord with this. This is in breach of the house extensions SPD, as are other aspects of the application, such as breaching the boundary to the west, length of projection, and various other items. Whilst I would like the plans to be accurate before the decision is made, I don't believe having accurate plans will make it acceptable. At the end of the day, the extensions built without permission are having a devastating impact on my mum's enjoyment of our house and garden. The proposed development obliterates sunshine from her garden in the afternoon, and that is her only outside space. I imagine the officer's decision is a difficult one, especially with the history of incorrect applications and the volume of inaccuracies within the plans. However, I believe and hope that you do too, had this application been submitted prior to the unauthorised building works, it would have been rejected and the applicants told to modify it to meet the SPD. As the SPD states in section 5.9, comply or justify. There is no real justification for the number of breaches in this application. The SPD requirements are clear, precise and attainable if you adhere to them before building. The fact that the extensions have already built makes things difficult for all parties, but this development is unauthorised and is having a significant impact on my mum's living space. In section 1011, the officer's report acknowledges this is a finely balanced case. And I hope just because things have been built does not tip it in the balance in favour of the developer. I hope you agree that the development is contrary to design guidance and understand its impact.
Thank you. Your time's up. Thank you.
Ranjit Kaur.
This one? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chair. I live at number 6 with my mum, who is the homeowner. My mum is elderly, with the beginnings of mobility issues. I have had multiple sclerosis for 21 years. I rely heavily upon mobility aids, and my dependence upon these will only increase. Due to these circumstances, we spend about 99% of our life at home. Our garden is our place to get out of the house, get some sunshine and fresh air. It's the only amenity space that we can access independently. Mum's not wealthy. She values the little that she does have and wants others to have nice things too, like a new extension. Hence, neither of us ever objected to any previous applications. However, what has been built next door without permission is far removed from that, causing detriment to our quality of life and enjoyment of our home and garden. My mum's bedroom is in the attic, so she's at the top of the house where she can get lots of natural light through the skylight. This has been blocked by the huge high dormer. Not only does it block light into her room, she can even see it when she's laying in bed. This previous summer, she genuinely had to switch on the lights during the day, where previously she did not. When we leave the house, we are now only 1 metre away from a big, blank, overbearing 6.5 metre wall. Previously, there was the number 8 entrance door facing us, and it felt like we were in a community. Now it just feels like we're barricaded in next to a wall. My wheelchair access has been obstructed, and no one thinks it's important. But it is critical and necessary for me in order to retain some form of independence. I understand that disability access is a material planning consideration. When in the garden, our visual amenities are impacted by the large, overdeveloped and overpowering rear extension. It's imposing, dominant and stands out, and it feels oppressive and inescapable. Quite simply, it's big, ugly and has to be seen to be believed. The introduction of the raised platform stairs makes being in our garden unnerving. You never know when someone's going to exit the kitchen door and be stood at an oppressive height above you, looking down on you, presence feeling overbearing and intrusive. We can't relax in our garden anymore.
30
Case
seconds.
officer's comparison of number 6 to number 8 extension for overshadowing and overbearing is unfair. Ours is shorter, narrower, and all of it, including its roof, is below the eaves. The southeastern aspect of our garden means the only available sunlight appears mid-afternoon and into the evening. The taller dormer and extension casts a larger shadow, meaning that in the afternoon and evening we now no longer have sunshine in our garden. It was previously a sun trap.
Thank you. Your time's up.
Thank you.
Mohammed Sarja.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some points. On my previous approved application,
few points have been raised by planning officer and by my neighbour, which are very minor. Amendment plan were mainly corrections and clarifications. January this year, I submitted another amendment plan as officer requested. I tried my best to correct all the measurement the officer asked. During the process of building work, I always listened to my neighbour and done everything she asked. My neighbour had her own extension, which is 2-story. Mine is only 1 story and the dormer. And we want a shared alleyway. So, which when she built her objection, I never objected once. I would kindly ask you to agree with officer recommendation to approve this application. This house is for my extended family. Thank you.
Thank you. Members. Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. William, in your report, you mentioned something about the rear dormer and cladding, and it sounded to me as if that was a recommendation to keep up with the rear neighbouring properties. Can you just provide a bit of clarity on that? It was the rear dormer and the cladding. Is that a recommendational instruction that it's got to go ahead? Because I've not seen anything like that in the report.
Yes, through you, Chair, I'll just go and check the text of the report, and it was some condition imposed on the original application, that the 2020 application, was that the dormer should be clad in dark horizontal boarding, not white UPVC.
Just through you, Chair, a condition is recommended on page 127 about replacing the white plastic cladding on the rear dormer with an alternative material. So our sort of, in terms of that alternative material, it would be sort of a grey, similar to the cladding used on the front elevation, the front dormer. Thank you, Chair.
Put your hand up then, Councillor Huppel.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask the objector raised a couple of points about sunlight and also about disability access. And she said that this should be a material consideration. I don't know if you can comment on those 2 points.
Through you, Chair, I believe that with on the application, the access to the existing pathways to be retained, which I think is what was being referred to. Obviously, the extensions had an impact on the next door neighbour. It's quite different to what was there previously. So it might be in relation to that was raised. Then in terms of the overshadowing impact, I think it was specifically in relation to the dormer window and the roof light. A dormer window has previously been approved on the rear elevation, and there's also a potential for permitted development. So whilst it might be slightly bigger than what was previously approved, on balance we feel that the impact is not significantly greater in comparison to what was already approved.
Does this tie in anyway with these discrepancies that seem to have been there in the first place? You say you've looked at it and sorted it, but it sounds to me as though it's not sorted. It seems a bit of a rigmarole. I just don't know I can't put my finger on it. And if they're still complaining about the overshadowing, you know, why hasn't that been taken into consideration?
Yeah, through you, Chair, we've assessed the impact on the residential amenity and the overshadowing impact, we've considered that impact is acceptable on balance, as William set out in the committee report. That's officer's view. The neighbour has a different view, and members can come to their own conclusion. The big difference between the scheme that was approved is the additional extra metre and then the increase in the eaves height, which is up to the is higher than what was previously approved. So it is bigger than what was previously approved, but we've had to assess that impact, and we've come to a balanced view on that.
Well, you say it's acceptable to officers. It's obviously not acceptable to the neighbours next door. It just seems a shame that there was no sort of communication, and they say it was last minute communication that you've given them on this. So it doesn't. It seems like in fact, a bag of worms actually. I just feel as though really I'd like to see this deferred. I'd like it because I'd like to get a better understanding and also to take into consideration what the neighbours, how it affects them. Because I think while you probably can't do it all, we could at least come somewhere near.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I can't quite hear what you're saying.
Oh, what I'm saying is I'm now believe that the best part here, unfortunately, is to defer this and to have some conversation with the next door neighbour and see if we can't come to some compromise. That would be my... Because there seems to be quite a bit of confusion even amongst the planners. Bellamy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I actually agree with you on this, because to me, from what I've read, it's a planning application that was gone through, but then they've not built what went through. They've built exactly what they wanted instead, and I do think that it needs deferring and further looking at. So I'll second that if you've moved it.
All right, Councillor Army, you wish to...
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I always have concerns about retrospective applications, and in this particular case I am very swayed by the neighbours' testimony about the adverse effects on the residential amenity. I take your point, Mr. Chairman, that we perhaps want to defer, see if we can reach some sort of agreement. But as it stands, without that proviso, I would not be supporting the application. I would be supporting deferment.
Councillor Homewood.
Yeah, I think the problem that I have is that because we're looking at, on balance, what the impact is, we haven't been to the site. I'm struggling to really, and I think because it's quite closed in, on the photos it's quite difficult to actually understand the perspective of it. And I don't know what we can do about that, because we've obviously not been going on site visits because we're allowed to go on the bus. But I don't know what we should be doing about that, because to me it's really difficult to make a judgment decision when you can't actually see what's there. I know the officers obviously have had the opportunity to see that. I don't know if that's something we can look at, because I just don't know how we can make that balanced decision.
I think that's why I suggested there could be some conversation between the neighbour, and although they probably can't police everything or every bit of it, but there must be some sort of compromise. And I think that would be a far better solution than what we've got at the moment, because it is a bag of worms.
Yeah, I think...
Councillor
I was just going to say that we can potentially arrange a site visit. I think, Julia, you might want to summarise in terms of where we're at.
Just for you, Chair, in terms of, like I said, members are discussing sort of a potential deferral, and I think as Councillor Homewood just pointed out just then, I think to see the actual development on site, because it is a retrospective application which we're all aware of, so you can see the impact of that development actually on site, so we can make arrangements for that to take place. for the next planning committee if members feel that that is a reason to defer the application. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Chair, I think it would be better as a chair, you would, if you would like to ask both the applicant and the objector if they are happy to go back and do some compromise. Yeah, they are all here. Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad suggestion, Councillor Sokol. If they can give us it straight away, what would be your position? Well, it's an unusual move, is this? But I think it's probably for the best.
Sorry, can I ask what the question is? What are we being asked?
Discussion with your neighbour. You have a discussion. Yes, yes, and be open. You know, there's no hard and fast on this. A bit of.
We've been neighbours for 30 odd years, and we've been friendly. Her mum is like a mother to me, and we've just been good friend, neighbour, everything. They've done the extension. I never objected. When I did my extension, okay. So what are we talking about?
Well, I'll have Councillor Earl in then, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, this is the second time that this has come to committee, and I'm a bit confused of why we're asking for a deferral now, and because the last time it came to committee, these guys have waited a long time for it to get to committee, and we said there's something missing. A compromise between neighbours at this stage in a planning application, personally, I don't think it'll work, because it sounds as if all avenues have been exacerbated, and a further conversation, I don't think would really achieve anything, because the objectors want it gone. It's already retrospective, so that further conversation amongst applicants may not achieve anything. The deferral to go and have a physical site visit, that may help, but I'm confused as to, we were here 6 weeks ago and it was a deferral for whatever reason, and it's come back again and it's a deferral again. We're going to go to the site visit, it's going to come back to committee again, and is it just going to keep getting deferred? Because the paperwork's not in, or for whatever reason we've not visited it, or because we made a conscious decision as a committee at the last committee meeting that, okay, we'll defer this and we're going to go away and they're going to go and look at, and the officers are going to look at whatever it is they're looking at. I'm happy to support a deferral. I don't have a problem with that. But when it does come back, then I think we're at a stage where it's been deferred twice now. We need to get this moving along a little bit. It's because they were just my thoughts. In terms of your intervention of a compromise amongst applicants and objectors, I mean, I think that's going to go down like a lead balloon, if I'm honest with you. I think we just need to go and visit, have a look, and take it from there. So I don't think they're going to compromise anything, by the sounds of it.
Certainly from what I've just heard, I would agree with you. Councillor Ruppel.
I'll second the, or I'll move it, whatever, the deferral and site visit.
I think Councillor Bellamy's already seconded it. As far as I've got down for
shall we go to vote?
Councillor Lyons moved it, Councillor Bellamy seconded it. So at the moment, it's we've got the case to defer for site visit in order for members to appreciate the overbearing nature of the development. I believe that's correct.
Yeah, through you, Chair, that's right. Yeah. And I don't want to prolong the discussion any further, because I know we've got a mover and a seconder. But all I was just wanting to raise is if, for example, if members do look at sort of the reasons, well, if they were looking to refuse the application, we would then need to look at in terms of what enforcement action would come next. What would you be advising on that? And that's something that we would likely need to discuss at a later date. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Deborah, do you wish to comment?
Thank you. I think it's all been said. I mean, we've got a retrospective application here. It's taken a while to get to this stage because of issues with the precise dimensions of the plans, but now it seems that we have precise dimensions. So a decision has to be taken now about whether what is on site now is acceptable or not. and I think it's a very good idea that members are going to go on site to have a look at what's there, and as Julia mentioned, whether if what is there now is not acceptable, what enforcement action would members like to see, if any? Thank you, Chair.
In view of that, the motion has been proposed and seconded. I'm going to read that to Richard.
Okay, right. Okay, so this is a vote for deferment to arrange a site visit. Councillor Armour?
In favour.
Councillor Bellamy?
For.
Councillor McGuinn?
For.
Councillors Lee Richards?
For.
Councillor Marchington?
For.
Councillor Allah?
For.
Councillor Sarwar?
For.
Councillor Apple?
For.
Councillor Sokol?
For.
Councillor Korshik?
For.
Councillor Homewood?
For.
Councillor Lyons?
For.
That's unanimous, Chair, so that will be deferred for a site visit.
Right, that moves us on to item 10, which is page 129. Hooley House, 1 Concord Street, Honley.
Thank you, Chair. This site concerns a property and just on the edge of Honley village centre, and it's a two-storey property on a corner site and already has planning permission for change of use to a bar restaurant. These are some other views of it. Some of the external works have already been done, including the recladding of this the single-storey part here, but the use has not been commenced. And it is in an area of mixed uses, and to the south there's an industrial site and a haulage depot, to the west of the public car park. To the north, east and east of the premises, it's mainly residential, and the west of the site, you've got of course, the main commercial street in Honley. The proposal is for the erection of an area of raised decking on this side of the property on Concord Street, to measure 5.5 by 3.1 metres. And to provide an outdoor area for use by customers. This is going to be raising of the existing highway boundary wall and a new boundary wall formed within the site to provide a safe parapet for the decking. And the overall height of the decking is to be raised by up to 550 millimetres above existing ground level in the site. The proposal has been substantially changed from as originally submitted, in that it was originally the decking was going to cover the whole of the site, and it was going to have a canopy over it, a glazed canopy, which would have been a very modern feature and out of sympathy with a conservation area. The proposal now under consideration, the decking itself will not be very visually prominent, and the raising of the height of the walls will also not significantly affect the appearance of the property, as long as it is done in matching stone, which can be conditioned. So it is officer's conclusion that it would be compatible with the council's duty to ensure development preserves and enhance the character of conservation area. There have been a number of concerns expressed by members of the public, firstly about the residential amenity aspects, and secondly about highway safety implications. The original permission was was passed subject to a number of conditions, including a noise management plan, and also a condition that there can be no outdoor use of the area by customers after 9 p.m. The implication was at the time that a degree of outdoor use by customers was expected. However, it is noted that in creating a raised levelled area, this will and which will make it possible to put out chairs and tables, for example, will make it more attractive for use by customers, and therefore will result in more customers using it as a dining, drinking and smoking area. So it is important that any possible noise implications be carefully considered. And for these reasons, officers are minded to, as before, impose the condition there be no usage of the decking after 9 p.m. on any day. And furthermore, that a noise mitigation scheme must be submitted before it's brought into use. This could cover things like the collection and disposal of glass bottles, delivery supplies and waste removal, and also any measures that may be taken to reduce or mitigate possible noise by customers. And it is also recommended that no artificial lighting be installed, artificial outdoor lighting, without a scheme being submitted, so as to prevent any sort of nuisance or pollution arising from the light. In terms of highway implications, I would ask members to note that the original scheme did not contain any formally laid out parking provision within the site. There was under as originally laid out, without the new decking, there would have been perhaps space to park 2 vehicles at most. And as it is, I mean, if the decking is built, then there would be room also to drive a small vehicle in here, for example, a small delivery vehicle. So if deliveries were to take place using a small van, then loading and unloading could take place within the site where necessary. It is possible that larger vehicles may have to stand on the public highway whilst loading or unloading. This is a fact that has been taken into consideration, and the highways officer has confirmed that he has no objections to this, as any obstruction to the highway would be very short term. And it is anticipated that a high proportion of customers would arrive on foot, by taxi or using public transport, and so the fact that there is a very limited parking within the site is not considered to be cause for concern. So this sums up the main planning issues, and I'll be happy to take any questions. And I'll just say that there have been, as in the report, there have been several objections submitted, which again have been summarised and responded to. Thank you, Chair.
Right, so we've got Councillor Greaves.
Hello, Charles. Do you want to?
Thank you. Am I okay to start? Everything has gone muted.
You've got 5 minutes.
Yeah, you're fine to go.
Thank you. Okay, so things have moved on a little from my previous comments, and I think it's true to say that the majority of the physical issues with the proposal have now been addressed. So I'm glad to see that the glass and the canopy have been taken out of the design, and that some of the decking has been scaled back so that there's easy access for the bins. The remaining issue, I guess, and it crosses over into the licensing bit, is the applicants didn't help themselves with their initial marketing campaign, perhaps when they suggested it was going to be some kind of party venue, which got a lot of concern from local residents. The fact that they also highlighted there were going to be a live music venue, and got people concerned with how much noise was going to be generated. So I think in many respects they've clarified exactly how they want to operate, but these are new operators, and I think the remaining concern would be, are they able to manage the premises effectively? So there's some licensing issues there, but in particular for this application, it relates to how that might spill out into the decking area and what impact that might then have on local residents. So Environmental Health have asked for restrictions so that the decking area is cleared by 9 p.m. The bit I would want to put to the committee, the bit I'd ask them to consider, is whether or not that the approved hours of use for the decking as part of this application is put on a temporary basis to be reviewed after, say, 6 months, for the operator to demonstrate that they can actively manage the impact from their new business. If they do manage the impact, then I don't see what the issue would be in extending usage. But if they fail to mitigate it, if they fail to manage it effectively, by having a time-limited permission, that would make it an awful lot easier for us to row back and also support the licensing objectives. So that's the bit where I'm at now. So it is that. Can consideration be given to making this temporary to review? Okay, thank you.
Johnson, Tony, is it? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair, and everybody else. There's a few things that we just need to correct there. I've been a licensee for many years now. I'm not new to the business. I've been in the pub trade most of my life. And also, just talking about the restrictions on the outside, this has already been put in place by licensing. So some stuff has just been not read by certain people. We are restricted, and we are restricted to 8 o'clock on the outside and all, which we agreed to. And we also agreed to be monitored for at least 12 months. So I mean, that has already been put in place. As for the decking area is not going to be raised. It's staying at the same level on the inside. The outside wall is going to be raised just for safety of customers. We're not going to be using decking. It's going to be Yorkshire stone that's going to go down, so it's more appealing to the building and the surrounding area. So besides that, everything else we're just doing as best to comply with, basically. And I mean, licensing is working very close with us, and they are going to be working with us for 12 months solidly, just to make sure we do adhere to the rules. So.
Yeah, just through you, Chair, in terms of a temporary permission regarding the hours of use, as officers, in this instance, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. What I would say is that if the premises, if they're not closing by 9 o'clock, then relevant enforcement action could be considered. And secondly, if it's that a noise nuisance is being created during that time, there is obviously the statutory noise nuisance, if that is what the case is. So there is separate legislation to chase out via environmental services like pollution and noise control as well. And also a condition is recommended about a noise mitigation scheme as well. So I think we've got sort of a number of suggested conditions there which would sort of provide you with some comfort. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you. Yeah, I'm not a lot of confidence in enforcement, unfortunately. The amount of time they take to get round and do these things, particularly in recent times. But members, Councillor Sokol.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think about a few months ago, just before Christmas, I was a member of the license panel, yeah, to decide the application from this site, yeah. I went there, we were 3 members, we look around there, and we look around there, we are asking about the delivery wagon, the heavy lorries coming. The applicant said no, they won't be heavy, it's a very small business. It's the only delivery come by the small transit van, not traveling. So, and with regard to parking, I agree with it. There most of the time the people walk because it's right in the village, you know. People might park not there, and it's always have been pre-arranged. If there is any party, yeah, they explain, yeah. So I listened to Charles, but he said there should be some planning, license, environment condition. I think that time the panel put the condition on the environment, noise, everything, and time limit. I think it was until 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock. They can't drink outside on any side, even on the decking, yeah. So I think Charles is proposing 6 months trial. I think 6 months is not. I think it's right. I think we should have at least 12 months, so we can see the both season, summer and winter, including there. So that's my views on this one. Thank you.
Would you like that conditioned, if we can do it?
Yeah.
Yes. Councillor Homewood.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Listen to what Julia said, and for me, I'm not sure about putting conditions on for periods of time unless there's a really, really strong reason to do that. Because, you know, if you're opening a business, you need certainty about whether you can move forward with your business, presumably. And do we put conditions on every business in this circumstance that they can only have planning permission for 6 months conditionally? I don't think we do that very often. I'm not quite clear what the really strong reasons are to do that in this case. I would have thought, as you said, through the licensing and through enforcement, if those licensing rules are not being met, that it would be the way to enforce that. So I'm not quite clear why we would put that condition on. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah. Deborah, do you want to comment?
Yes, I'm. If my opinion is asked, I would have thought that we have appropriate enforcement regimes and there is licensing oversight. And to echo Councillor Homewood's point of view, that the applicant needs some certainty in terms of investment and making progress with his business. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think there are sufficient safeguards and no compelling reasons to suggest any temporary permission in this case, but that is just my opinion.
I'd have thought, particularly in the position there where it's so precarious on that corner, you couldn't swing a cat there. I mean, and a great big lorry comes by and they're having plenty of drinks. I could see there isn't a possibility somebody might get knocked over. But I don't know. I've got mixed feelings on this one. Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, generally, I would like to support this, but I totally understand why some people would be concerned about it. So, you know, the noise mitigation scheme is going to be really, really important, you know, and I don't know what that is. I'd like to understand what does that mean. And also, in terms of the hours of use of decking, we've got the no later than 9 p.m. I think the gentleman said 8 p.m, but is that for alcohol? So basically you can stay on till 9 afterwards, but you can't have alcohol out there till 8. So, because he's talking about 8 p.m. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, it isn't decking as such. If it's York stone, that's not decking really. That's flagged.
No, but I guess what I'm trying to understand is he says 8 o'clock for sale of alcohol, or I think it's sale of or drinking alcohol outside, and we've got a 9 p.m. condition, so I just want to understand what the two things are, just so I'm clear what the difference is.
Yeah, through you, Chair. So in terms of following consultation with environmental services, what the recommendation is there is that the actual use of the decking, so whether people are like stood out there talking and things, what they're advised to us is that by 9 o'clock that is fine from a environmental services perspective, so pollution and noise control side of things. So like I said, that wouldn't override the licence where it might state that until 8 o'clock you can have alcohol within the premises, so it wouldn't override that. In terms of the noise mitigation scheme, like I said, that's something that we're looking at conditioning, so you'd consider things such as, you know, like not having speakers outside on that area, to sort of mitigate any, or to ensure there's not any impact on the sort of surrounding occupants there. I think as William touched on earlier on about sort of the disposal of glass bottles and things like that, making sure that that's not taking place within that area. So it would be sort of considering things like that being put forward as part of that noise mitigation plan or scheme. Thank you, Chair.
Any further people wish to speak? No? Oh, yes.
Sorry, can I just ask a question about the safety? Because we're talking about raising a wall to improve safety. Because I do know this area, and there is a large haulage company or something around the back. How is that going to affect public safety on that corner? And one other minor comment. The glass bottle banks are already opposite that corner in the car park at the moment, aren't they?
Yes. Through you, Chair, in response to the latest comments, the raising of the wall will not apply to the entire length of the wall. The part near the corner will remain as is, and it's just where it fronts or encloses the customer area and the decking flagged area, and so it's not going to affect highway visibility. I know that some members of the public have expressed concerns about possible collisions with large vehicles actually driving into the wall, but that could have happened anyway with the layout as existing and as approved. And I don't see any, in my professional judgment, any clear reason why raising the wall to that extent will make such incidents more likely. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Any further speakers? Anybody else? Homewood's got a question for you, Jim.
I was just going to say that I'd move the officer recommendation.
Right, so it's been moved by Councillor Homewood, seconded by Councillor Ellis, so that's to approve the officer recommendations outlined in the submitted report. So Councillor Armour.
Abstain.
Councillor Bellamy.
Abstain.
Councillor McGuinn.
Abstain.
Councillor Lee Richards.
Abstain.
Councillor Marchington.
For.
Councillor Allah.
For.
Councillor Sarwar.
For.
Councillor Apple.
For.
Councillor Sokol.
For.
Councillor Corshit.
For.
Councillor Homewood.
For.
Councillor Lyons.
Against.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for, 1 against, 4 abstentions. So officer recommendation is approved.
Right, item 11, page 141, Netherley Drive, Marsden.
Thank you, Chair. This site concerns land off Netherley Drive, Marsden, which is an area of undeveloped land just outside the built-up part of Marsden. It is in this area here on the photograph. The proposal is for the erection of 7 dwellings described as eco-dwellings in the application. They would take access by means of this track here off Netherley Drive. The development plot is here just above the wooden gate. And this is views on the upper part of the site looking down. The development plot is the area below this dry stone wall. The houses would consist of 3 fairly large houses on the upper part of the site and 4 smaller ones on the lower part. And these are to be varying designs in terms of numbers of rooms and height and so forth. These are the elevations submitted and floor plans. Now, in assessing the application, one of the principal considerations is that the site is in the approved green belt, and since the application is not for the redevelopment of a previously developed land, it is in principle inappropriate development, and therefore should not be permitted unless very special circumstances can be demonstrated. And in this instance, the fact that the houses in question have been described as eco-dwellings, and if it were the case that these were going to be carbon neutral, then there would potentially be an argument for very special circumstances, although even then it wouldn't necessarily outweigh the harm to the green belt. It's just a factor we'd have to take into account. However, very little evidence has been submitted on their performance in terms of carbon emissions, so no substantial weight has been placed on this factor. There are several other planning concerns with this. The access track is substandard and unsafe owing to its width and gradient, and it also carries the route of a public right-of-way. The site is in the Wildlife Habitat Network, and no supporting information has been submitted concerning ecology, not even a preliminary ecological survey. So in the absence of evidence to the contrary, then it is probable that impact on biodiversity and ecology will be negative. In terms of their aesthetics and appearance, the design may not be bad viewed in isolation, but in this context, introducing new belt development into what is now open land, and especially the larger dwellings, it is considered to have a detrimental impact on landscape character, and including on views to the Peak Park, which we can see just about in this photograph towards the rear. Furthermore, there are trees issues in that there are trees near the boundaries of the site that might be affected directly or indirectly, and as well as some concerns about internal layout. So for all of these reasons, the application is recommended for refusal. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, John Carter. Yep.
Thank you. I'd like to address the Chair with sort of what we feel is why we've applied for the planning and not to any technical terms. I'm sure most of the lay people objecting think that this is simply a case of money, and of course root of it is. I'll come to that in a minute. However, a greater and more personal case for this submission is that we want to create a continuing legacy in memory of those who's gone before us. The field is about 15% of what remains of the original land owned by our family, which was compulsory purchased by the council in the 1950s to facilitate the Netherley Drive development. Netherley Drive is so called because the land belonged to Netherley Farm, or Nedderley, to give it its proper name. This farmstead has been associated with my grandparents' family since 1768. Our father and aunt had their houses built on the top piece of land adjacent to Old Mount Road. I still live in one of those properties and overlook this field. We have now laid out the history and personal significance of this small piece of land, and we'd like to express for your understanding our family ideology. We wish to leave behind something better than we inherited. Our proposal includes accessible for the disabled bungalows and affordable dwellings, all built to an ecologically green and carbon neutral standard and as defined in the vernacular, using reclaimed materials to blend the new building into the landscape. And this is our principal reason behind the scheme of things. Here's where the money comes in. If, however, we release this alone, it would not make it viable proposition for a developer to financially build, and therefore it's got to be a trade-off. This being the other three properties which have been developed using the same ethical principles but as family homes. The inclusion of these properties will make the development financially viable for a developer. The layout also is of importance, with dry stone walls and with richly planted areas of shrubs and trees, and by planting to local flora and fauna specification, wetland areas, watercourses and a proper routed, well-defined public footpath through the development. The whole is aimed at being of benefit to the local populace and also the many visitors who come to this beautiful place. Thank you.
Members. Councillor Bellamy.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose I may as well go first. Seems it's my ward. I actually agree with the officer, which the officer might be quite surprised. It's not very often I actually do that. So I don't think it is suitable to build there at all. It's very wet. It's on a hill. It is green belt. There's been other applications put in for up that area as well, which have been refused. And this just seems to be another string of them, to be honest. I don't know what else to say, really. To be honest, like I say, I actually agree with the officer on this, and I'm more than happy to move the officer's recommendation of refusal. Thank you.
Councillor Armour.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to second the motion. It's Greenbelt. Don't really need to say too much more. And just pending the prefix eco does not provide any very special circumstances. Does not offset the harm to the Greenbelt. I just see no merit in the application, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Councillor Sokol.
Yeah, Chair, I agree with Donna and Bell. I think this is not the right place to build. It's a green belt. And the second thing, the access to this 7 property is too narrow. It's not suitable for those property. I think it will harm the landscape as well. So I'll go along with the officer recommendation. Thank you.
So it's been moved and it's been seconded. And Councillor Bellamy's moved it and Councillor Armour's, moved it. Councillor Armour's seconded it. I don't think we've any more speakers. No. Putting on to the
to the vote. So this is to refuse the application in line with the reasons in the submitted report. Councillor Armour.
For refusal.
Councillor Bellamy.
For.
Councillor McGuinn.
For officer's recommendation.
Yeah. Councillor Lee Richards.
For the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Marchington.
Not voting.
Sorry?
Not voting.
Okay. Councillor Sokol.
For.
Councillor Corshit. Councillor Homewood.
For.
Councillor Lyon. Sorry, I do apologise, Councillor Salwa. I do apologise. That wasn't intended. Councillor Salwa.
For.
Thank you. And on that basis, it's unanimous. So the application is refused.
Do more.
Have I? Oh my God, I do. Councillor Apple. Right. Have I missed anyone? Right. It is unanimous. Application is refused.
We move on then to page 157, which is 212 Bradford Road, Fartown.
Thank you, Chair. My name is John Holmes and I'm presenting this application, which is for a two-storey extension at 212 Bradford Road, Fartown in Huddersfield. The site is within a predominantly residential area with dwellings surrounding the site. The property is currently in use as an office and the extension would serve as further office space. The application being considered today is an amended proposal following a previous refusal for a similar scheme. The site falls within a local centre, which is Fartown, as identified in the Kirklees local plan. So this is the existing layout of the site and elevations of the property as it currently stands. This shows the previously refused scheme, which also saw a two-storey extension to rear. This scheme was refused on the 17th of August 2021. No appeal to this refusal has been received to date. This is one of the elevations which is being, for the proposal which is being considered today. The main amendment is that there's been a removal of a section of the two-storey element to create a first floor, a terraced area that's on this flat roof here. This shows the other elevations of the rear and the other side elevation. And this shows the overall layout of the property, with the new office space being shown on the far left and also here, and this would be the terraced area accessed by this office here. So these photos show the front and side of the existing building, as well as the rear space, which is where the extension would be sited. This photo shows dwellings opposite the side of the site, and they're approximately, well, they're a distance of 9 metres from the side of the existing property. And these are final photos which show the rear area of the site and also the rear of some of the neighbouring properties, which you can see here. Members have a full report in front of them, which sets out that no representations from the public have been received following advertisement of the application. The Coal Authority has been consulted, and confirm that they have no objection subject to condition. As set out in the report, the main issues with the scheme relate to the impact upon neighbouring properties and the impact upon residential amenity, as well as visual impact of the development. The proposal would develop the majority of the rear of the site and is considered to be of a scale and design which is out of keeping with the existing property and the character of the wider area. Furthermore, the proposal is considered to have a detrimental impact to neighbouring properties to the north and south of the site as a result of the size of the proposal, which is considered to lead to an unacceptable level of overshadowing and be unduly overbearing and oppressive to these properties. Finally, as a result of the creation of the raised terrace, the proposal is considered to lead to an unacceptable level of overlooking to properties to the immediate north and south, as well as to the further north of the site. The application is concluded to be contrary to parts A, B and C of policy LP 24 of the Kirklees local plan and policies within chapter 12 of the National Planning Policy Framework. There is considered to be no material considerations that outweigh the conclusion the development is contrary to the local plan and national planning policy. The application is therefore recommended for refusal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Right, so we have Umar Hussain, if you want to speak. Umar, you're on mute, I think. If you want to unmute, you can speak.
Oh, hi. Sorry about that. I did start. Thank you for hearing me, Chair. I would like to reference the 3 points that we've heard in regards to the refusal, in regards to the previous application and this application currently. Point 1, the incongruous effect by the virtue of design and scale, I believe has been resolved in this reference by obviously in the reduction in the projection and the height of the second story element. The first story element becomes below ground. And I think an issue we're having here is we are, the proposal is being subjected to being subservient as a residential property, not as a business. And that is an issue in its own. I think needs to be some merit or weight given to that. The current property itself already has quite large windows, which would not be subservient to a residential property. However, they are subservient to a business, which is obviously what we're serving here. In regards to the second point, the reason of it being size and proximity to number 214 and 2 and 4 Beach Street, Back Beach Street. 214, I believe we've resolved by the reduction in the projection and its height from a gable end to a lean-to. I don't see any issues with number 2 and 4 Beach Street, as the rear of the property is already sat on a 2.3 metre high solid stone wall. Under permitted development, the applicant could put a 2 metre fence for his boundary, which would then equate to a roughly 4.3 metre side wall, which all under permitted development would still then do that without the planning application. Point 3 being there is no raised terrace. The garden towards the rear is already sitting at garden level, so there would be no overlooking issues any more so than there would be at the moment. So I'm not sure if there's been a misunderstanding. However, there is no raised terrace. It is at the same garden level as it was previously, or sorry, it currently sits at the moment.
30 seconds.
I think I'm finished. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, Khalid Rafiq.
Thank you, Chair. I'm the applicant on this case. As planning office raised, like no neighbor has raised any concern at the moment. We are be running the business from there over a year, and we open a business that we open till 5 o'clock or half 4 or 5, and I am a FCA regulated firm. We want to extend our business. We want to do in-house conveyancing. For that, we need extra room. If we don't have the extra room which we need, and the SRA, they have certain requirements, we will not be able to get our authorization from SRA as well, because we want to do is like we're doing mortgages and we want to in-house conveyancing. For that, we need that. In fact, no neighbors objected to my proposal. They are in support of it, and Highway gave in my favor as well. They said like there is no concern. And with the planners, we try to resolve the issues. Like we, instead of like full permission at the back, we have reduced in size, and our submitter should be getting, application should be approved. Thank you.
Members. All I'm getting is smiles. Councillor McGuinn.
Okay. Sorry. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for your comments. I think before hearing it, I was pretty clear to support the refusal. It is a shame, really. I mean, I don't want to, given it's a business as well, obviously, it would be good if we could support it. But, you know, my real concern is the impact on the other properties, the residential properties around it. And I think I've still got a concern there. I'm not really sure I'm helping here. I'm a bit stuck, so I'd like to hear what others have got to say before I make my mind up. But I am a bit just concerned about the neighbours, really. But again, you know,
you just seem to be repeating the officer's recommendation.
I'm just repeating the same thing. Yeah, let me hear what others have to say.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to move officer's recommendation for the following reasons. I think it's an overdevelopment of the site, and also it's overbearing on the people around it, on the properties around it. It's clear in the officer's report, and I think we should. I propose that we go for the officer's recommendation to refuse. Thank you.
I'll second Councillor McGuinn's motion, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Any further speakers? No, we'll go to the vote then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fine. So it's been moved by Councillor McGuinn, seconded by Bill Armour, to refuse the application in line with the officer's recommendation, which is outlined in the submitted report. So Councillor Armour.
For.
Councillor Bellamy.
For.
Councillor McGuinn.
For.
Councillor Lee Richards.
For.
Councillor Marchington.
For.
Councillor Sarwar.
Abstain.
Councillor Apple.
For.
Councillor Korshik.
Abstain.
Councillor Homewood.
For.
Councillor Lyons.
For.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for, 2 abstentions. So the officer recommendation to refuse has been approved.
Right, thank you. That